Hi, everybody. It's Lee, and I'm talking about Tulsi Gabbard. I've spoken about Tulsi Gabbard before when I was supporting Bernie Sanders throughout the Democratic primary, and then my focus turned to Jill Stein. And so throughout the general election, I was very preoccupied with what Jill Stein is doing. And so Jill Stein is still very much at the forefront of public discussion, leading the charge on electoral and vote reform. And so I say that's wonderful and courageous of Jill Stein to do that. It sets her apart from nearly every other presidential candidate this season, and including primary candidates as well. So I say well done on Jill Stein. With Tulsi Gabbard, I didn't really focus on her past the Democratic primary, but now she's stepped to the forefront as well, um, mostly because of her being spotted talking or speaking with Donald Trump, apparently about our military defense and our foreign policy. Being a politician who represents a district in Hawaii, and who is a veteran herself, naturally she'd be interested and the treatment of her fellow brothers and sisters in arms as part of our military defense. And since Donald Trump is slated to be the commander in chief, it makes sense that they would have conversations. And better a conversation and communication on these issues, which are very paramount in North America, our defense, our military, and the responsible use for it. There should be conversations on this. So well done on Tulsi Gabbard for that. There are people who've been speculating on whether she was a progressive or not. I think that there are degrees. I do. There are some who are purely progressive on every single issue, but then there are people who are more progressive on some issues than others. For instance, Bernie Sanders himself is considered a progressive. However, he is pro-gun and pro Second Amendment rights, but responsible use of our or interpretations of our Second Amendment rights. And then he also supported some foreign policy that some would consider hawkish. And so we say, is he purely progressive? I would say he is on most every issue, definitely in terms of degrees inside the Senate. He is definitely far left and he is far progressive. Tulsi Gabbard is approaching Bernie Sanders' level of progression. Definitely on foreign policy. I feel that she has a very common sense approach on foreign policy. I trust her when she makes statements on how our military should be used and our foreign policy, and how it affects us here in North America and around the world. She's very well positioned to speak on that authoritatively. And then some other issues she might be seen as right, for instance, of her views on Islamic terrorism or people who profess the religion of Islam and then go on to commit acts of terrorism. My concern is that I don't believe that it should be associated with religion because many of the Muslim faiths do not do these acts and they are 100% against these acts. They see the Muslim religion as a religion of peace and brotherhood. Same with Christianity. There are those who use Christianity as a weapon to harm others. They weaponize Christianity. And nearly every religion you can think of can be weaponized. And then some who have that inside of them, the will to weaponize a religion, whatever religion you give them, or even if they don't have one, they would commit these acts. It's inside them. Her views on the religion itself, people have questioned that. Her views on gay marriage, I think she was against it before she was for it. like many people, she has evolved. I think that at the end of the day, that Tulsi Gabbard is progressive on many issues, but not all issues. Like many in the political arena, she can move right, left, center, forward, progressive, but primarily progressive. So, in essence, I would say she's not necessarily a progressive, that she is actually an independent who calls herself a Democratic uh, candidate or politician. She's part of the Democratic Party, but in essence, I do think that she's really, underneath it all, she is an independent, and that it was just more expedient that maybe she leaned more Democratic than Republican. But some issues, her views do line up with those of a Republican, gun rights, for instance. And then, like many people who can't really identify themselves as one party or another, um, she moves based on the issues. And so, where her issues lined up with Donald Trump, she met with him on those issues. And for that reason, I think truly she is an independent who calls herself a Democrat. Bernie Sanders was an independent who called himself a Democrat for 1 year, and then he went back to being an independent. And I do think that probably Tulsi Gabbard may step to that direction, or she may maintain the label of Democrat um, politician. Uh, I kind of thought that Jill Stein might be able to um, have conversations with Donald Trump on certain issues, specifically the infrastructure plan, job creation, the Green New Deal, energy policy. It doesn't look like it's turning out to be like that, though. Jill Stein does whatever Jill Stein wants to do. She's, that's who she is, and that's why I like her very much. We'll see where it all plays out. But I like that there is a feeling of independence that's catching on. Many people identify as independent, at least half the population. We definitely should have more representation in our Congress of independent minded people, or if not people who call themselves independent, and definitely at the top of the ticket. I think more independent minded people would be a better reflection on our political process overall rather than partisan politics, which has really not been a benefit to anyone but those who really want to clutch on onto power and not relinquish it until they're just well, anyway. I admire Tulsi Gabbard. I admire Jill Stein. I admire Bernie Sanders for his stances on certain issues. Anita Turner for showing her independence. More independent-minded politicians, the better, I think.